posted on whatever that structure is or
Right.
wherever they're working. And of course, if it's in the basement or something, you wouldn't have an occasion really to post that. Do you need a permit to have work done in that basement if it's remediation and it's
There's some rule
renovation?
on how much work is being done and exactly the value of it versus the value of the structure and some of these other things. If there's electrical work involved,
Yes.
I'm positive that it's almost always required. If there's plumbing work being done, it's required. I think if you're replacing drywall, for example, and nothing else, and it's very small, it may not be required.
Good to know. Other things that you think of about contracts that we need to worry
Well, a
about?
lot of people, I think, are filing claims with their insurance company. So the
Yes.
insurance company will probably participate in whomever you choose to get the repairs from, because the insurance company is going to want to see estimates before they agree to pay anyone.
And here's another big pain in the whatever.
Yes.
You have a mortgage,
Yeah.
and the insurance company has the mortgage company or bank listed on your policy with them as an additional payee, so they put the bank's name on it, on the check, as well as your name. And the process of getting that endorsed over and so forth can be a bit difficult.
Yeah.
Talk to us a little bit about the relationship between the insurance company, who may be on the hook for it, some, in many cases not, but if they are, and the insurance, the adjuster, the appraiser. What's that relationship about? I've understood that there are times when you might want to have your own, and you pay for them, as opposed to an insurance company who's sending
It's
one of
just
theirs.
like getting bids for the price of
Right.
services. You have an absolute right to get an independent estimate or an appraiser for damages, whether it be to a house, to a car,
Right.
to a swimming pool. You don't have to accept the estimate that's provided to you from your insurance company.
Yeah, usually, the insurance company sends out somebody. Now, in the automobile industry, they have people who work for them because they're dealing with auto claims all the time. Sometimes the person they send is an independent appraiser, but they're paying for that appraiser. And if you don't think that the appraisal that you're getting is correct and that the work can be done for that, there's people called public adjusters that you can
Yes.
hire. But you're going to pay for that. And if it's a big job, they usually get paid on a percentage of what they're getting. So be aware of that, but it is available to you.
In terms of the cart before the horse, is it better for you to start to work with or get bids from a contractor to find out what those costs might actually be, while at the same time that adjuster may be in the process of figuring out what he really should be paying for, if it's going through an insurance company versus FEMA?
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, my clients who come to me for auto accidents and their car is running but damaged, I say bring it to the auto body shop so they can give you an idea of what it's going to cost and let them negotiate with the insurance company as what they need to get paid to get it fixed. Same thing, if you have a contractor or somebody you work with who you know and you're comfortable with them, get your bids, and then if your appraisal comes back much different, you can say, well, wait, what's going on here?
You know, the old days before we had the Home Depots and the Lowe's, contractors used to go to lumber yards to get materials. And we find out now, because of the giant corporation like your Home Depot and your Lowe's, it's sometimes it's cheaper to get your materials from those places. So in the old days, you really had no idea how much the contractor was paying for materials versus you yourself going out to the local Home Depot, Lowe's, and getting an idea, actually pricing it yourself.
What are you saying? Knock on your neighbor's door and say, let's build something together.
Yeah.
It's quite an ad.
Thank you.
Is it worthwhile for someone to retain a lawyer when it comes to getting involved with a contractor and what he will and won't cover versus what my architect says, which is different from what I went and found out for a price when I went to Home Depot? With all of these variables coming in, do we need a lawyer to get involved with this?
Usually, hopefully you're not at a stage early on in the process where that's ever an issue. If you have something that's been designed by an architect who's overseeing the building process, they'll usually be the ones, and they're much tougher than lawyers in that situation to tell the contractor, this is what was called for, here's the specifications, you need to follow this. In a home repair situation from these floods, you're not going to be in a situation where that's a major issue, but you do want to make sure they use the materials that they've specified in the contract.
Or else then I might need to enlist
Well,
a lawyer to go after.
if there's a breach of contract, then you really need to get in to speak with an attorney.
Right.
Fair enough. Other issues, references. You mentioned earlier that it would be a good idea for you to talk with others who've had similar things done by that contractor. What are the typical kinds of questions? How did they do? They did fine. How about if we get a little more specific?
Well,
what do you want to ask
one
your
of the
neighbor
biggest
or
things
referral?
I find, having had a lot of people come in with complaints about different things, is do they show up when they say they're going to show up? And given the situation right now where people may be taking on a lot of work if they can get it because of all the repairs that need to be done, maybe I'd ask the contractor, what other work have you taken on, and how do I know that you're going to be here and have the work done when you say it's going to be done?
Thus have a time schedule in the contract.
Right.
Is it legitimate to say that if you don't get it done by thus and such a date, I'm going to deduct 5%, 10%, 3%?
Call it a penalty clause.
That's right.
Why not?
If it's in the contract and both parties agree to it, there's nothing wrong with it.
Would a contractor agree to that?
You know what, if they're reputable and they are upfront with you, here's the obligations I have, this is a time frame, and I will get it done within that time frame, why would they object to having a reasonable penalty within a reasonable time frame?
Especially if they gave you a legitimate time frame within which to work that you
Right.
said, and they're saying, this is what I'm telling you, it'll be done.
Correct.
Oh, by the way, if there are any changes to the contract,
Yes.
in writing.
We talked about that.
Yeah, it should be.
That's
Unexpected.
the extras.
Yeah.
Unexpected things happened during that job. I didn't know when I took out that part of the wall that your electricity was corroded also, and we need to do more wires. That I would never have known that until I opened up the wall. Now what?
Now you go back to if there are changes required,
Right.
have it in writing. Again, if the contractor has to sub out for an electrician, you want an estimate in writing.
And maybe a second electrician to look at
Exactly.
it and confirm that that's what needs to be
Would
done.
you call that into question just because he happened to find something that he wasn't expecting? I mean, that could legitimately
No.
happen, but you still want to have a second.
Not necessarily. If it's something that he can call you downstairs or wherever it is and say, hey, take a look at this, and you can see it, well, then you can see it. You might want to get a second opinion anyway because of the price.
So would you say just hold off right there?
Maybe.
We'll see you tomorrow. I
Right.
need to check with my other neighbor or
Right.
whatever. That's a
I need
legitimate thing to do?
My wife would say I need to talk to my husband. If it were me, I'd say I need to talk to my wife.
That's a very good way of playing that. That's a very good way of playing. Websites for people to go to. FEMA, the AG's office.
Yeah, Rhode Island, I actually wrote down the web addresses. For the Contractor Registration Board, www.crb.ri.gov. Massachusetts.
www.crb.state.ri.gov.
Okay, you got it. Massachusetts, mass.gov/OCA.
Do you think that it's worthwhile to call Consumer Affairs before you get involved with any of this, just to see if there's been other issues, apart from them being on the watch list?
Hey,
Why
doesn't
not?
hurt. It doesn't hurt.
Better Business Bureau?
Yeah, see if they have any complaints.
I think it's important for our listeners, our viewers, to know that because these issues have already been cropping up, there is plenty of information about what to watch out for in addition to what we've reviewed with you. Buyer beware, as you say, and I hope some of these tips have been helpful to our viewers. I guess we'll be staying with additional issues relative to home improvement and real estate in the coming weeks. I hope you'll be with us. We once again thank attorney Jacqueline Grasso and David Bizarre from Odette Bizarre Cadero Grasso Law Firm in East Providence. Hopefully you're all more and better aware.